All right, my friends, welcome back to another video. In this one, I'll be discussing why always trying to be productive is actually a big mistake. Now, I know that might seem counterintuitive. How would not trying to be productive help me produce more? Especially since we live in a world where society praises hustle culture. Society praises the people who show up early, stay late, and work until they're barely hanging on. After all, in our world, productivity is prioritized. It is praised, as I said. We're always trying to do more things. We're always trying to be in more places and see more people in the shortest amount of time. And on one hand, I totally get it. Time is short. Time is valuable. And we all wish we had more time to do more things. But on the other hand, I strongly disagree with the productivity and hustle culture that is so deeply embedded within our minds. I say this because of the high performers I have seen, the high performers I've met and worked with. They don't necessarily work more. Yeah, sure, they go through phases where they will work 10, 12, 16 hours in a day, but that isn't their long-term plan. They're in the game of sustainability. They don't worry about being more productive. They worry about leveraging those high-impact tasks. They perceive work and productivity completely different, and yet they produce top 1% work at a consistent rate for months and years at a time. You might be thinking, okay, well, how can I do this? How can I perform like the top 1%, still producing a high quality of work without trying to be productive? When it comes to getting more things done and being more productive with the limited amount of time that you may have, many people resort to quick fixes. They look for these productivity hacks. And these things can be useful, of course. I have also used time blocking and doing the highest leverage work first in the day and waking up at 5 a.m. All of it. It can work in short bursts. But here's the problem. When pressure hits or you start to feel exhausted from all those days of waking up at 5 a.m. and not getting enough sleep, then being productive feels impossible. Because when you're relying on those quick fixes and those hacks to be more productive, then you're essentially relying on external forces in order to get more things done. That drive isn't coming from internally. You've perhaps lost energy, and maybe your mind is feeling very cloudy, which makes work itself feel like a drag, like you're trying to push a boulder up a hill with nothing behind to support you. That is eventually damn near impossible. From there, you start making poor decisions, you start skipping out on those days when you should be putting the work in, and overall, your output significantly decreases. It's funny how this works, right? The things that are supposed to make you feel more productive, the things that are supposed to make you be more productive, those hacks and quick fixes, they end up backfiring on you because they're not sustainable long term. This is because those productivity hacks only address the symptoms, not the root cause. And the root cause I'm talking about here is a dysregulated nervous system. Look, most ambitious people, most people who have these big goals and dreams and they're already pretty disciplined within their life are already working enough. They're putting in the hours day after day. Maybe they're waking up early, maybe they're building their business and then going to work, and then in the evenings after work they're hitting the gym and building their business again, and they're really maximizing the time that they have to be productive and get things done. But many of these people, they're running out of fuel. They're running out of the energy and the mental clarity and the resources needed to perform at their best day in and day out. You're so focused on producing more and operating at that higher level that you're neglecting other areas of your life. Maybe you're neglecting your sleep. Maybe you're eating poor junk food. Maybe you're neglecting your spiritual practice. Maybe you're not socializing enough with other people. And these things ultimately do help you. They do help you think more clearly. They do help you recharge and refuel in ways that actually benefit you. About 3 years ago, when I was building my email marketing business, I thought that any time spent away from my laptop was time I was wasting. So I neglected going to the gym. So I neglected hanging out with my old friends. I neglected socializing with my family members. All these things that actually would enrich my energy, that would make me feel more charged and fueled up to produce more work at a higher level, I wasn't doing. I had this misconception that if I was away from my laptop, if I wasn't doing work specific to my email marketing business, then I was falling behind. But I was totally wrong. When you focus all of your efforts on trying to produce more and locking in entirely on the specific tasks related to the work at hand, then you will operate at a lower level. You won't think as clearly. You'll make poor decisions. You'll feel low energy. And ultimately, you will burn out. You see, your body's nervous system is regulated by your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind does not care one bit about being more productive. It cares about your safety and your survival and how secure you feel on a day-to-day basis. When you're so exhausted and perhaps even burnt out from trying to be productive all the time, from neglecting all those other areas of your life just to work more, then your nervous system is in survival mode. When it's in survival mode, your body and brain don't operate at its very best. And in those cases, as I mentioned 3 times already in this video, then you cannot produce the highest quality work. So now that we understand that a dysregulated nervous system is the root cause of a lack of productivity and poor performance, what can we do? How can we change this? How can we regulate our nervous system? There are a few things that I have done personally over these last 2 to 3 years that have really helped me in terms of getting more work done at a higher clip, and I think you'll find them to be very beneficial as well. So the first one is reframing how you perceive productivity. Most people are brought up with the idea that more hours spent on a task means a higher quality of output. But that way of thinking, that mental model is so outdated. In fact, it comes from factory workers back in the early industrial age. In those days, and even still to this day in the modern working environment, where they were told, and we're still told to this day, that we need to show up at this time and work until that time, and we need to fill those hours in between with a consistent stream of work. But the thing is, the human mind does not work that way. We are not machines. We cannot work from 8 to 4 or 9 to 5 or 10 to 6 and produce at the same level all throughout the day. It's unsustainable. Our minds cannot handle that amount of time with a consistent workflow and high productivity output. If you want to be more productive with either your schoolwork or your business or perhaps even your full-time job, then stop worrying about how much time you're spending doing the tasks. Instead, focus on the quality of the time that you spend. And you can determine this by assessing your energy levels, your mental clarity, and your ability to maintain this sustained focus over extended periods of time. For me, that's 6 a.m. until about 9:30, 10 a.m. That is when I get the most amount of work done at that highest level. 3 to 4 hours of high leveraged, deeply focused work far outweighs 14 to 16 hours of scattered and mentally exhausted work. Now I get it. You might be thinking, Colin, I have a full-time job and I have to work and I have to produce at a certain level between this hour and this hour. I get it. I've been there too. While you might not be able to control all aspects of your work, you can control how you perceive productivity. And most people in modern times, if we're being honest, they might show up at the office at 9 o'clock and stay till 5, but nobody's really working 8 hours a day. In reality, most people are working 3 to 5 hours a day, even at their full-time job. Now, I'm not saying that you should not do the things that you gotta do. I'm not saying that you shouldn't work at the highest level that you can for the amount of time that you're supposed to be doing, but if you do shift the way you perceive productivity, then what you realize is that you can sustain this higher level of mental clarity and focus and output than you could before. Number 2 is to make breath work a daily practice. This is something I've talked about ad nauseum in plenty of other videos, okay? So I won't go on and on here. But what I will say is this: a very simple breathing routine I've been doing for the last 1.5 to 2 years is 3 seconds of an inhale, hold for 3 seconds, and then exhale for 10 seconds, very slowly out by the mouth. And the thing is, you can do this whenever and wherever you want. Nobody's gonna look at you and be like, what the hell is that guy doing? Because all you're doing is breathing. You're just breathing very slowly, very controlled in a calm and composed manner. And when you intentionally breathe like this every single day, you're stimulating your vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is one of the more central nerves within your whole nervous system. When you do this every day, it promotes calmness, emotional stability, and a serious amount of mental clarity that you didn't have before. I know, sounds crazy. Maybe even it sounds ridiculous, but trust me when I say this is very impactful. And if being productive is something that you deeply care about, then give this a try. The third thing is prioritize deep rest. We're always prioritizing productivity and getting more things done and being in all these different places at once, but we neglect sleep. We stay up late, we hop in bed, we scroll on our phones, we watch TV before we go to bed, we pull out our phones and we're scrolling before we even get out of bed in the morning. We're so overstimulated and under-rested. I know, on the surface, prioritizing rest seems a bit backward because it's like, all right, well, if I'm spending more time resting, truly resting, then I'm spending less time doing the high leverage work that I gotta do. And that means less productivity. But trust me, it's not the case. I'm not saying to be lazy and convince yourself that you're resting, because that's obviously not helpful. But think about deep rest and explosive deep work like a lion. Lionesses, or the female lions, they're the ones that hunt for prey so that the pack or tribe of lions can eat. And these lionesses will go out 3 to 4 times a week on average. Now, these hunts, they're typically pretty short because, well, they're lions. They're super fast, they're strong, they're agile, they're intelligent, and most of all, because these lionesses are deeply rested. After they successfully take down a prey, they'll bring the food back, everybody eats, and then they sleep. Think of yourself like a lion. You can't have extreme periods of deep work and high productivity without periods of deep rest. They go hand in hand, like yin and yang, like black and white, like light and dark, or up and down. They must pair together. Look, you can add all the productivity hacks and rigid routines to your life, and those can be helpful. For short periods of time, you will get a lot of work done. But eventually, your nervous system will become dysregulated because you're not fully resting. You're not prioritizing what you need in order to produce work at the highest level on a consistent basis. Maintaining high productivity for extended periods of time is unsustainable if your nervous system is dysregulated. So give these a try. Let me know how it goes. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.